The rain poured heavily the night I lost my job. I remember walking home with the letter in my hand, the ink smudged from my trembling fingers. 30 years of loyal service, countless sacrifices and endless nights working overtime, all erased with a single sentence. Your services are no longer required. My world felt like it collapsed in that moment. At my age, who would hire me again? The rent for my tiny apartment was due, the fridge was nearly empty, and my savings were disappearing like sand slipping through my fingers. I thought of only one person who could help me, my son Daniel. I raised him alone after his father passed away. I worked 2 jobs so he could attend the best schools. I skipped meals so he would never go hungry. I pawned my jewelry so he could buy his textbooks. Every dream I had for myself was replaced with dreams for him. And he succeeded. He graduated from a top university, built a thriving business, and now lived in a luxurious penthouse that seemed to touch the sky. I often told myself that my struggles had been worth it, patient, so, with trembling courage, I took the train into the city. The moment I stepped into his building, I felt out of place. Everything gleamed: marble floors, polished glass, golden accents. Participation. The doorman looked at me with curious eyes as if wondering whether I belonged there. When I told him I was visiting Daniel, he raised his brows but allowed me in. As the elevator climbed higher and higher, my heart pounded. I wasn't there for comfort or extravagance. I was there because I needed my son. When the elevator doors opened, patient, I stepped into a world that didn't feel real. His penthouse was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a glittering city beneath us. Chandeliers sparkled like stars, and music played softly in the background. Daniel was seated on a leather sofa sipping champagne, his suit perfectly tailored, his shoes shining. He looked every bit the successful man I had raised him to be. My chest swelled with pride, until he looked up. "Mom, what are you doing here unannounced?" he asked. More annoyed than surprised, I forced a smile though my hands shook. "Daniel, I didn't know where else to go. I lost my job today." I pulled the crumpled letter from my purse, my voice breaking. "I just need a little help until I find something again. Just enough to keep me afloat." For a moment, I thought he might hold me, reassure me the way I once did for him when he was a boy. But instead he sighed and leaned back. "Mom, you can't just show up expecting money. I worked hard for this life. Do you know how many sacrifices I made to get here?" My throat tightened. Sacrifices. I remembered the nights I worked until dawn so he could have new shoes. Participation. The times I walked in the rain so he could take the bus, the birthdays I spent alone because I was working double shifts for his tuition. All those memories burned inside me. But I kept my voice calm. "Daniel, I don't want much. Just some help until I can stand again. Please." He shook his head, his eyes cold. "Mom, I can't." Participation. I've got responsibilities, investments. People think I'm rich, but money doesn't just sit around. You should have planned better. Participation. It's not my fault you're struggling. The words shattered me. My son, the boy who once clung to me during storms, the boy who once said I was his hero, was gone. In his place sat a man wrapped in wealth but stripped of compassion. My eyes filled with tears. "Daniel," I whispered, "I never wanted your money. I wanted your heart." But he had already turned back to his phone, dismissing me like an unwelcome guest. I left the penthouse with heavy steps, the glamour around me only magnifying my sorrow. Outside, the city lights blurred with my tears. For the first time in my life, I felt utterly alone. But as I walked down the street, participation, something shifted inside me. Maybe I didn't have my son's support anymore, but I still had my dignity. Participation, I still had my strength, the same strength that had carried me through raising him, through hardships, through loneliness. The days that followed were difficult. I sold the few valuable things I had left. I ate simple meals, sometimes skipping dinner. I searched desperately for work, facing rejection after rejection because of my age. Yet, one afternoon, as I sat at a small cafe reviewing job postings, I overheard the manager complaining that he needed someone reliable to handle accounts. My heart pounded. Participation. I gathered the courage to speak up. "Sir, I used to manage accounts for over 30 years. I may not be young." Participation. "But I can promise you dedication." He studied me for a long moment before nodding. "Come tomorrow. Let's see what you can do." That was the beginning. It wasn't glamorous. Participation, but slowly I rebuilt myself. I learned new skills, made new friends, and even found joy in small things: a warm cup of tea, the laughter of my neighbors, patient, the peace of knowing I stood on my own 2 feet again. I no longer waited for a call from Daniel. I stopped checking my phone, hoping for an apology. My heart was bruised, but it healed with time, not with wealth. Months later, Daniel did call, but not because he had changed. His business had taken a hit, and suddenly he needed advice, guidance, participation, and maybe even financial help. The irony made me smile sadly. I agreed to meet him, not out of bitterness, but because I wanted him to see something: that life is not about luxury, but about love, humility, and gratitude. When we sat across from each other, his face drawn with stress, I looked at him with calm eyes. "Daniel," I said gently, "participation. You once told me you couldn't help me because money doesn't just sit around. But love, compassion, and kindness, those should always sit in our hearts, ready to be given. Without them, wealth is just empty glass. For the first time, he had no reply. He looked down ashamed. And in that silence, I didn't feel victorious, I felt free. Participation. Because I had learned something powerful. Sometimes the children we raise forget us. But life has a way of reminding us that we are stronger than abandonment. Patient, that dignity shines brighter than diamonds. That love, when given freely, is never wasted, even if it isn't returned. And as I walked away from him that day, I carried no bitterness. Participation. Messages. The story reminds us that wealth means nothing without compassion. And even when those we love turn their backs, we can still rise with strength, dignity, patience.